Hey, how's it going, guys? Um, I want to talk about several things, but it's all gonna revolve around what's happening in Spain, right? So I don't know if you're familiar, but there's riots going on in Spain, and a lot of it started a long time ago with the rape gangs from like Pakistan and India and other third world countries where Spain allowed a lot of people to come in and you know unfortunately, they come in from countries where a lot of things are okay over there, but they're not okay in Western civilization. And so there's been a huge increase in violent crime, theft, um, rape, and grape, whatever YouTube likes. I don't know. And, it's been a slow boil, but now that boil is becoming bubbly and it's starting to spill over the pot, right? Well, I think it was about a week ago. I can't give you the exact dates, but it's been about a week. This old Spanish man was beaten pretty bad, pretty severe by, you know, um, some of these illegal immigrants. And that seems to have kind of been the spark that's igniting this soft civil war right now, which, in my opinion, is only going to grow from here and not just grow, but I think it's going to spread throughout the EU. So, if you haven't heard, there's been a lot of unnecessary violence from people who they consider immigrants, but they're just illegals who have been imported to the EU. We have that same issue here in America, but the difference is we have Trump and Tom Homan have done a fantastic job of trying to get rid of them all, right? Because we don't want that. I don't want that. Most people, if they're being honest and there's nobody around where they don't have to be politically correct or feel the pressure of being judged, they'll tell you the truth, which is nobody wants this. So right now you have kind of this boiling pot thing where the locals are now going after the Muslims and the Arabs and whatnot. And in return, those people are going after the Spaniards. In my opinion, um, this is not something that just happened. This was something that was created, right? In my opinion, this was something that was part of the plan when they were bringing in people from third world countries. Not just bringing in people, but what they were doing is they were importing a lot of young men, 20 something year olds. They call them military aged fighting males. Um, they were bringing them over. They weren't allowing them to work. And so, how does somebody make a living, right? Well, you had two different things happening at one time. So they were bringing in a lot of young men. They weren't giving them work permits to work and make money, but they were also bringing in a lot of family structures. And in turn, they were actually giving them a lot of assistance, housing, food, etc., etc. So both things caused a lot of very that feeling of where with the locals where you're just like, man, this doesn't feel right. This is not right. This is not okay. These are people that just got into our country. They're getting all this stuff, but what about our people? We have homeless people. We have veterans that are on the street. We have low income people that need help. How come you can't help them? And then these people are just getting here and they're getting every single thing they need to not just exist, but thrive in the Spanish economy. But one more time, this is not central to to Spain. This is actually happening throughout all Western cultures or countries. So you had that. So you have a lot of anger from that. But then you had a lot of anger from the young guns, the youngins that were being imported, that were causing a spike in crime, rape, things of that nature, right? So it was a double-edged sword. No matter which direction you went, you were hitting you were getting stabbed by something that just made you really angry. That was stirring the pot inside of you as a local, as somebody who's proud to be a Spaniard. And eventually it was going to reach a boiling point. And it looks like that boiling point is starting to get there. The water's spilling over. In my opinion, this is just the beginning. In my opinion, this was by design. I think that this was the plan all along. I think, you know, Spain and all these EU countries and in America, I think the plan was to get people so riled up, the locals, to where there's a form of civil war uprising so the government can crack down through hardcore measures, like a form of martial law or something like that, where they can bring in somebody that's extreme to be like, to solve the crisis. But at the same time, what they were going to do is take a lot of power, hold that power, use that power, and then once the problems are solved, they were going to keep that power, and now you have an authoritarian state. I truly believe this was the plan all along, uh, and that's why in America, every single time there's some form of gun violence going on, um, they're very quick to excuse me real fast. My Dell Tech is telling me he's running late. And so that's why every time there was an act of gun violence, you see the news just coming after. You see the Democrats coming after, being like, "It's the guns! It's the guns! It's the guns! It's not the people. These people who are on SSRIs and whatnot." Um, Sorry, one more time. Sure. So these people that are on SSRIs or who are coming from very broken homes, or they're coming from families that are just jacked the fuck up. Um, they're being manipulated through like the social media, through TV, through other forms of programming to go and do violent acts, right? And when they do, the media, the Democrats, they use that as an opportunity to be like, okay, go push for gun control, gun control, gun control. Which essentially, gun control, when they say gun control, what they mean is gun confiscation. They want to take away guns because as long as Americans have guns, we can push back on a lot of what's happening, like in Spain, and that's going to start happening in other parts of the EU, because we'll just shoot these people. I mean, that's just it, right? You can't have people running around with machetes trying to hurt you if you have a gun, right? They can come at you with a machete, but who cares? My my wife, my kid, they can, anybody with a gun that can pull a trigger can stop somebody with a machete. Anybody with a gun, regardless of their size, can stop a giant that's coming after you with any form of weapon. Does that make sense? So a gun is the ultimate neutralizer of violence. You can just put a stop. And so, in my opinion, this was something that was supposed to be happening here in America, and they keep trying to do it here in America. Now with the whole protest to try to protect the illegals from getting deported, which, by the way, we all knew it already, right? But now it's officially coming out where they're admitting that it was paid for. All those protests were paid for. A lot of those people who were protesting were being paid as employees. And then what happens is they pay X amount of people, but then normal people like myself, yourself, and others see those people out there. They see a cause and they're like, oh, well, look what's going on. Let's go take a look, right? So you have people who like to spectate, and then some want to participate and be part of it. And so it after that point, it starts growing organically. But what these people don't realize is they're being used. They're being used by the people who are paying for the instigators. And then once the instigators start doing bad things, these people get blamed for it. So it's coming out that all that was being paid for, and a lot of innocent people were being caught up because they were too stupid to realize it, and then they got caught up in doing bad things, right? They were like, oh shit, they're throwing bottles, they're throwing bricks, and then the cops start responding, and then they're like, oh well, F these cops, and then they start going back and forth. Next thing you know, they got themselves involved in something that they should have never been involved with, but because you paid 200-300 people to go out and create a protest, and then you had a lot of people who were just passerbyers or, just going about their everyday life. They were like, hey, let's go take a look. Think of a car accident on the highway or anywhere. What happens when there's a car accident on the highway? Even if it's on this side of the highway, and the side that goes this way, but you're driving this way, this traffic always comes to a standstill because everybody wants to look. Everybody wants to see what's happening on this side of the highway, right? They call them the looky-loos. And I'm guilty of doing that as well. I am not exempt from that. But like most people, I don't stop my freaking car to or I don't slow down to 5 miles an hour on the freaking highway to take a look, which is what most people do. No, I'll just keep going normal speed. I'll look, look again, but I keep going, right? But people like to watch a show. And so when they see something that is interesting, they want to go look. My wife, the other day, we had 3 fire trucks, 4 cop cars at our apartment. We put into our driveway. I'm like, I'm going inside. My wife's like, I'll be there in a little bit. She walked all the way to go see what was going on with the fire trucks. And I didn't go look because I don't give a shit, right? But most people are like my wife. They want to see what's going on. They want to know what's going on, even if it has nothing to do with them, even if it's nothing exciting. Just the fact that there was action happening there, they had to go take a look. And I think that's what happened. I think a lot of people got caught up in the spectacle of the protest. They saw the protest. They were like, let's go take a look at what's going on. Let's ask questions. Let's talk to people. Or let's just spectate, right? And then eventually they became involved in it because they were like, we like immigrants. They're good people, right? They're cool. And then they just got caught up in the moment. It's the ultimate form of entrapment, right? These people are being paid to entrap other people to create the illusion of a larger protest than it ordinarily would have been. So, nicotine. So, what I'm getting at is what I see happening is I see in America we're going to be fine. And the reason we're going to be fine is because, one, we still have guns. And no matter how hard these people push, we have pushed back even harder and said, F you, we're not giving you our guns. But 2, we have Trump. We have the Trump administration, right? He takes up 4 fingers on this hand. And Trump is the ultimate FU to the system, to the globalists that want to create this uni government or one world government, whatever you want to call it. It comes down to the same thing. It's the fact that a small group of people will control everything throughout the world officially. A small group of people already control almost everything that happens throughout our world, but this would just be official. They can go from being faceless to being faced, right? They can come out of the shadows, then they can be like, we are your gods, we are your rulers, do as we say. Peasants. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense to some of you. I know it's hard to swallow because it sounds really crazy and outlandish. And even myself, when I'm looking at all this stuff that's happening and I'm trying to rationalize it in my head or make sense, it doesn't make sense to me a lot of the times because it's like, could this really be happening? Like, I've come to the realization that it is happening, but I still struggle and I fight with the fact that, wow, is this really happening? And in my opinion, yeah, it is happening, and it's happening in real time. So what I'm looking for now is not, is this going to increase in Spain? But is this going to spread? Is this going to spread to other EU countries, right? Germany, Norway, Poland and other places like that, France. And I guarantee France is going to be somewhere there soon. And I'm not looking to see how big this gets. What I'm looking to see is the response from those governments. Is this going to spread? It is. Is it going to get bigger? It is. But that's not the part you want to pay attention to. The part you want to pay attention to is the response from those governments. Trump is the ultimate FU, so there's already pushback from some countries like Poland, and I forget the other one. So you already have Hungary was another one. Hungary or Hungary, I don't know how you pronounce that. I think it's Hungary. So you already have pushback from several EU countries, right? The question is, how many are going to push back? How many more are going to push back, right? Trump has already set the blueprint. And without America, this movement to create this uni government has already failed. But they're still moving forward with the hopes that they can do something with Trump to try to get him out the way. Probably another assassination attempt. Maybe, something along those lines where they take him out, they move him out the way, and so they can bring somebody else in. But in order to do that, they also got to get rid of J.D. Vance. And who's next in line after J.D. Vance? Well, you have Michael Johnson. And Michael Johnson is just a tool. Michael Johnson has no purpose. He has no morals. He has nothing. He is a guy that goes with the water. He goes with the flow of the water. And so if Michael Johnson or Mike Johnson is able to somehow get in there and take control, well, they do have a chance because he's weak, right? He doesn't have an ideology. He doesn't have principles. He doesn't have morals. His is just, making sure that he and himself and maybe the people he cares about are in the best positions possible. So I would look to see what actions are being pushed towards Trump and J.D. Vance. They're already calling, you have crazy leftists calling for people to try to take out President Trump again. You're not really hearing too much action being pushed towards J.D. Vance. But what they are doing is they're trying to make J.D. Vance look like a clown, right? And J.D. Vance is anything but a clown. The guy is very, very smart, very well spoken. He's got a great military history. He comes from a great background. But it would be interesting to see what calls to action are they pushing to people that are weak-minded enough to do something about it. What they're pushing for Trump, combine that what's happening in the EU as far as the government's response, see how big this spreads and how wide it spreads, and then see where we are as America as a whole, right? All 50 states, not 51, all 50 states. Now you see some states like New York, California doing their best to really push back on the Trump admin to keep these people here, but it's not working. What's actually happening is it's motivating Trump and Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, and these guys to push even harder and go harder into these blue states than any other state, right? And so it's going to be an interesting dynamic. Don't look at what's happening. Look at the response of the governments of those countries. That's going to be the biggest tell. And so if you see that those countries start coming down iron-fisted and you have this strong figure who appears to be Trump-like but is completely unknown. You don't know him. Nobody knows them. But all of a sudden they're saying the right things. They're moving with people who are also repeating what they're saying. They become, you start hearing hard calls for nationalism from people that you don't know from those countries, that you just, like, who the hell are these people? Then you know that they're getting ready to bring in the strong arm of a dictator. They're going to allow this dictator to use extreme powers to crush the movements. But in turn, he might be able to squash all that, but he or she is still left with all that power. And so that's what you want to be looking for. You want to be looking at who's going to be the face that they're pushing. Are these faces familiar? Are they saying the right things? Are they saying them in very hardcore terms? Um, and if that's the case, then you know what's going to happen, right? And this can be on the hardcore left or the hardcore right. We're not saying it's going to be somebody who is in alignment with Trump and how they speak. It can be, it can go either way, because at the end of the day, once you hit a hard extreme, they end up at the same place, right? It doesn't matter which direction you go, you end up in the same place, which is a hardcore dictatorship. That's my opinion. Keep an eye on it. If you're in the EU or somewhere out there and you just happen to listen to this, um, you're being led down a path to a dictatorship. You just are. This is all by design, in my opinion. I think you're all being played. I think this was created. I think this was the circumstance that was supposed to happen because the government made it happen. And so, one more time, in one of my previous videos, I explained problem, reaction, solution. Government creates a problem. They allow for the for the people's reaction. But then the government who created the problem comes in with a solution. So it's a triangle, and it's a very well known. I don't know if it goes back to the Communist Manifesto or anything like that. I don't remember exactly where it comes from, but if you look it up, it's problem, reaction, solution. They go together. The government creates a problem. They allow the public to react the way that they expect them to react because that's the outcome that they planned for. And then once the people react, the government can come in with a solution. And that's how the government continuously takes more and more and more power because they set the scenario, they create the problem, but they set the scenario for the reaction, and then they come in with the solution. So it's all by design. Um, that's all I have, man. It's going to be interesting. I think things are going to start moving fast from here because there's too much going on, right? There's too much. Trump is really pushing back hard on a lot of these things. I think a lot of things are coming out that these elites and globalists don't want to come out, and so they need this. They need this to. They need these problems to happen now. They need them now, so people focus on that rather than what's happening over here. Doesn't make sense. It's like just like an illusionist. They need to push something here that's so much more extreme and interesting to distract you from over here, so they can try to hide and cover it up. Um, that's my opinion. It's also going to be interesting with the whole Jeffrey Epstein files because I think all that is part of this. Um, in my opinion, going back a couple videos, I personally believe that Elon and Trump are setting the stage to push out the Epstein's files. And the reason that they couldn't do it before was because there was too many roadblocks. You had Democrats with some Republicans blocking the release of the files. Now it's come out that you have a couple of judges in New York that have put the files under seal. So what, in my opinion, what they've done is they created an uproar and made people focus and all their attention on the files and get unanimous consensus from both Republican and Democrat voters screaming for the files to be released. And this is not something that we've ever seen, right? But what started it? It all started with Elon's tweet about Trump being in the files. I'm telling you guys, I know it sounds crazy, but I firmly believe that was by design. Because Democrats don't care about anything that doesn't have to do with Trump. The moment they found out that Trump could be in there, they were like, release it. And by Trump saying, not interested, Pam Bondi, go tell him we're not releasing it. What he's doing, it's the carrot. He's got the carrot. Every time, the rabbit tries about the carrot, they pull it up. So the rabbit's getting more and more anxious. Give me that fucking carrot. And that's what I think they're doing. They're creating that animosity for something because they think it has a silver bullet to take out Trump. If Elon never mentioned Trump, there would not be this amount of attention on the files. Just think about it, guys. Just think about it. The only reason Democrat voters now care about the Epstein files, which have been out there for a long time, and Epstein has been known about for a long time, but nobody cared because, forgive me, Democrats didn't care because it implicated Bill Clinton, it implicated Biden, it implicated a lot of their favorite people. But now that there's this idea that Trump is implicated as well, now they want it. It's a bloodbath. And so expect there to be a larger roar for the Epstein files. You're going to see a lot of shenanigans from both Republicans and Democrats. And when I say Republicans, I'm talking about Mitch McConnell and the Mitt Romneys and them, the people that have been there 30, 40, 50 years, the McCains, the McCluskeys. But you're also going to get a lot of pushback from the majority of the Democrats because they know that a lot of their leaders are implicated in those files. There's a lot of Republicans as well, but not as many. And so you'll see the Democrats playing this game where like, oh my God, look at this. Look, we're trying to get the files, but they're really, doing some shady shit like, let's have a vote on releasing the files, but we're gonna tie it with Medicare for all or something like that. And so obviously the Republicans are going to vote it down because they're not going to pass Medicare for all, right? It's just not going to happen. Or they're going to be like, let's vote on releasing the Epstein files, but we're going to tie that to gun control legislation. You understand? Like, it's going to be shenanigans where they know Republicans have to vote it down, but then they can go and say, look, they don't want to release the files. The only thing that's going to take care of that, the moment that Mike Johnson, if he's able to do this, because one more time, he's nothing but a tool. Mike Johnson can quash this. He can quash this by putting up a resolution to release the files on a single motion. And that's how he can kill all this. And then that's when you will know which Democrats are for and which ones are against. Everything else is a fairy tale. It's fiction. It is a play. It is a storyline that is being created for you by the Democrat Party and by some Republicans. Okay? So look for those calls to get stronger. Look for them to become more extreme. Look for those games to be played. But then it's going to get real serious once Mike Johnson, under the instruction of Trump and other people, pass a resolution to not unclassify, but unseal these documents. And then that's when you're going to see the real tally of Democrats and Republicans that are okay with releasing the files. And that's when you'll know the truth. Okay? That's all I got. I think I did a lot of hand motions this time, right? It's because I'm laying back. I got my little pillow here, my old person pillow. That's really all I got, man. We're living under such amazing times. And nicotine. And we're living under amazing times. I don't think people realize how amazing these times are, because it's essentially the unraveling. Some people will say it's the rapture, or I'm sorry, not the rapture, the Revelations part of the Bible, where it's the Great Awakening. Maybe. I'm not a Bible expert. I've never studied the Bible, but from what I got from Grok, it sure does sound like it. So we are living under good times. Those files will be released. There will be a special counsel investigation. How soon? I don't know. The voices got to get louder. They got to get louder. They're going to get louder, because as Trump keeps pushing back, that carrot just keeps messing with them, and it makes him more and more rabid. You understand? He's playing with them with the carrot guys. And so this would have never happened. This amount of attention on these files would have never happened without Elon. And that's why I think it's all by design. I could be wrong. We'll see. I don't think I'm wrong. So just keep an eye on that. Thank you for paying attention if you watched the video. Have a good one, guys. We're living under amazing times. Really, truly good times. Are there bad things happening? Yeah, absolutely. But we're also living under great times. And so once we come out of this, I think things will be better for everybody. Thank you.